Hey, sorry it's been a while, but we're back. New year, new season. Lots of stuff to be excited for. Chicago Aftershocks coming back to the Pro Division. Sadly, I had to lose my favorite team, Columbus Level, for that to happen, but it is what it is. Dynasty won World Cup again. Great. Yeehaw. And even though it's only January, I'm really looking forward to all the cool stuff that's hopefully going to be going on this year. Me personally, I do a lot of media work, so I'm super excited that this year I'm going to be doing media at the Mid-American X-Ball League for the first time. I should be there for the whole event series. Normally I'm at MSXL all year, but this year I'm probably only going to be at events 3, 4, and 5. Definitely going to be out for the Pittsburgh Open Classic in August. That's always my favorite event to shoot every year. And even though it's like, over half a year away, I am so excited for that event. And hopefully some other stuff will pop up and other opportunities for me to get out and maybe meet some of you guys will come up. But yeah, I'll keep y'all posted on that as it goes. But what I'm actually here to talk about today is you guys who actually play competitive paintball, and how you need to think about your ranking, think about your points, and work it out with your team to make sure that you guys are setting yourself up for the best road to success moving down the line. Anyone who's been around the sport for a while, you definitely see trends, and you see people, usually younger people, who are really gung-ho about, climbing the ranks, getting as many points as possible, winning, and then ranking up to as high of a rank as they can, so that way they can chase their dreams of becoming a semi-pro paintball player. And while that's great and wonderful, and anyone who wants to chase that dream and wants to go for it, I will fully and gladly support you and be your biggest cheerleader on the sidelines the whole way. However, I think the problem is that a lot of kids who kind of chase that dream really don't understand what it means to be a high-ranked paintball player. And when I say highly ranked, honestly, I'm talking about above D4. So for those of you who don't know, how do you get that rank? How does that all work? And honestly, if you clicked on this video trying to get a full breakdown of exactly how the APPA point system works, you're not going to get it from me, because honestly, I don't even fully understand it myself. It's a lot of numbers that I honestly just can't handle. But there are a lot of people on my team who can, and I let them do all that math and figure out everything for us to make sure that, we're all ranking up as we need to. However, there are a lot of bullet points in the point system that I think a lot of people overlook and don't take into consideration when they're trying to figure out their points or figuring out whether or not they should play an event coming up and where they should play. So, first of all, there are divisional multipliers. Now, for D5, it's just 1 times, but it doubles from there. So for D4, it's 2 times. For D3, it's 4 times, etc., all the way up to Pro, where it's 32 times your points. Another thing is the amount of points that it takes to get out of D6 and D5 respectively is purely by design. D6 is literally designed for you to just get your feet wet. Just get out on the field, get a little bit of experience. From my experience in a lot of D6 events, the refs are usually a little bit more lenient. I'm not going to say that's true for every event, every ref, every series, but from what I've seen, generally speaking, the refs are usually there to kind of help people kind of hold their hands a little bit and let people kind of get their feet wet and experience tournament paintball in a much more relaxed setting. Again, totally by design, but D5 is meant for you to play for a whole season. That way you can, gain more experience with competitive paintball, this time in the actual 5-man X-Ball format, but also keeping things nice and fair and level between everyone there. Now, this is something that I see happen a lot. A lot of people think that it's basically just if you start the season at a certain rank, you stay there all the way through that season. So if you start at D5, you can play whatever all year. Even if you go over the 100 points required to get out of D5, you'll still stay D5 because that's what you started at. Now, that's not exactly true. Many people do not know this, but if you go over 300 points and you play at least one event in D4 that year, you will automatically bump up to D4 mid-season. Usually when I see this happen is because D5 is playing on Sunday and a bunch of people want to play, 2 days of paintball. They want to play Saturday and Sunday at the event. So they hop onto D4 lines that need bodies so that way they can just play more paintball. Now, don't get me wrong. I love playing paintball, and the idea of playing paintball for a full weekend sounds like a great time. But at an event, when they're applying these points and it counts, you might not be ready to play D4 and you might be doing great in D5, but because you wanted to play D4 and God forbid you came in a 20th out of 24 teams or something just because you wanted to play an extra day, well, because you're doing good in D5 and you've got the points and you played D4 one event, congratulations, you're now D4. And yeah, there is the option to play as the D4 drop on your normal D5 line, but if it were me, I would want to keep those spaces reserved for players who are better D4 players and keep you down at D5 and keep you at the level that you're actually playing at. Now, like I said, D5 only takes 100 points to bump up to D4, but D4 to D3 takes 492 points. Like I said with D5, and D6 being by design, same thing with D4, except this time D4 is designed to host probably 90% of competitive paintball players. I see a lot of guys trying to rush out of D4 and bump up to D3 as fast as possible. And honestly, APPA, again by design, kind of make sure that you don't do that. Only your second, third, and fourth highest scores are the ones that count towards your points. Anything below that doesn't count. This way, it means that you aren't going to bump up into D3 until you're consistently winning in D4. This is a good thing. This is there to make sure that when you do finally bump up to that higher level, you're ready to do so. Another thing to keep in mind is that the current season that you're in and the season prior, all of those points are worth 100%. Any years before that are worth 90%. Then the year before that is 70, and then 50, and then 25%, and then so on and so on. So again, you have to show consistent and constant improvement before they'll let you bump up to the next division. Also, another thing that I really appreciate that they do is that once you reach the age of 41, your points are automatically worth less anyway. So at the age of 41, your points, it's 97.4%. Then at 42, it's 95. 43 is 92.5, etc., etc. So as you get older, your points are worth less and less. And again, that's that way you're not, just because you've been playing paintball your whole life, you're not D2. And, as your body is physically not able to play high level paintball, they're not forcing you to play in high divisions just because you've been playing since you were in your 20s and it's just racked up. While I can't really speak on every region of the country, I know at least where I'm at, there are significantly less D3 teams than D4. If you look at any regional event or NXL event, D4 is loaded with teams, again, because that's where all the players are meant to be. D4 teams are a dime a dozen, but MSXL, which is the league that I shot mostly last year for media, looking at their D3 rosters from all year, I only think that there was one event where they even got close to I think 10 teams, and there were some where there were only 5 teams total. You got to be ready for the hustle that comes along with it. Once you start playing in the higher levels of paintball, it's not just about showing up on Sunday the weekend before the event. Once you start playing D3 or higher, you got to start spending time in the gym multiple times a week. You need to be in your backyard doing drills. It's not just about showing up on a Sunday afternoon and just hanging out and getting spins in with the boys. Especially because now you're paying a lot more for paintball. So if you're going to spend that much money and then come in last, I wouldn't even want to play anymore. And I would hate to see the sport get ruined for anyone just because now they're stuck in a higher division. They're paying a ton of money and they're not winning. And so they just don't want to even be there anymore. Also, once you bump out of D4, you're going to be much more limited in events that you can play. Like I said, MSXL had trouble bringing in D3 teams this last year. I don't know exactly all the reasons why that was. Like I said, there's not a ton of D3 teams in this area, and I'm sure there's a lot of teams that just didn't want to travel that far for just, a regional event. I totally get that. So hopefully we'll see some more people out this year. I don't know, but so then you end up having to look at the NXL and having to play national events, and those costs add up so much faster than just regional. Obviously, entry is going to be way, way higher. You're going to have to travel across the country. Like I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, so getting to Vegas, is a big flight. Going to Philly is either a flight or like an 8-9 hour drive. Chicago's like a 6-7 hour drive. Florida is like 18-hour drive, or a quick flight. Personally, I really try as much as I can to not use PTO days from work to travel for paintball. I try to prioritize spending time with my wife and family with my PTO. Not to say, what you can or can't do with your PTO, that's fine. But if you do have PTO, you're going to have to decide, do I want to spend that on paintball? Do I want to spend that on time with my friends and family? Everybody's situation is different, but that's another added cost. Also, if you do drive, like if I was going to drive to Florida for World Cup, that means that's a whole extra day or day and a half that like I just got to spend sitting in a car or traveling on a plane. Like that's kind of a day that I don't get to have back. I could stand here all day and give you all of my opinions and reasons why I think it's important for people to play as low as they can for as long as they can. At the end of the day, I have 0 APPA points myself. Personally, I don't like playing super competitive, crazy paintball. For me, even though I am part of a team, paintball is something that I really enjoy doing with my friends, and I really want to keep it that way. You may see me playing up at Iron Mitten Series in Michigan this year. They don't award APPA points, so it's a much more casual kind of event series. Super, super well run up at TC Paintball. So I'm probably going to play some of that this year, but I took some time to talk to a few of my buddies that do play high ranked paintball. That way I could give you guys their perspective and make sure that, you guys can take a little bit of knowledge from them and hopefully apply it to your plans going into this season. Yeah, so real quick, if you just want to kind of introduce yourself, like what's your rank, who do you play with, who have you played for, just kind of where you're at right now.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Morgan Walker. I'm currently ranked Division Two on APPA, and I played with a flurry of teams throughout the years. I started off playing local with a team out of Ohio, OBR, the team out of Chardon, Ohio, Pinnacle Woods Paintball Park. From there, I started playing more of the 10-man stuff, and that's when I kind of got linked up with a team called War Party. I actually played the ICC with them the last year that Tim Montressor was alive. And from there, I just kind of played divisional after that. We played Division 3 a lot for OBR in the NXL. And then some stuff happened with our local field where our coach couldn't make it anymore. So then it was kind of hard to go to those national events without someone coaching you. So for a little bit, I kind of took a step back from the X ball side of things, and I played more 10 man. And that's when I came across the All Americans. They needed an extra body for a practice, and in Florida, and then, so I went down for that. And then I did pretty good in the practice, and then the tournament that they were going to be playing is a local tournament to Florida. So I flew down again next weekend, and then we played um, that tournament. We got first place, and then I've been playing with the All Americans ever since then. That was in 2021, the beginning of 2021. So from there, I kind of got back into the NXL, and I played the 5, 7, and 10 mans with Extreme Rage. We were a pretty dominant force throughout all those. We got a lot of wins and seasonal wins from there, and that team is ran by Todd Adamson, who just actually reincarnated Aftershock, so that's pretty cool. Um, and
So
then
we're
I
about to
played.
see your pro bid.
I don't know about that. I got some life things going on this year that might prevent that. So, but last year I played semi-pro, and so I kind of cut my teeth in the higher ranked version, higher ranked you know NXL divisions, and I got to play against really good teams, and I got to play with really good people on that team. Unfortunately, I think I was kind of just like a shoe-in. I was playing with Preferred Mob out of Boston, and they kind of just needed an extra guy throughout the year. because some of their main players weren't able to make certain practices or make certain events. So for World Cup, um, I don't know if you want to call it getting cut, but they basically told me that they didn't really need me for that event or probably any events going forward. So I guess you'd call it a cut, but they were really everything was really cordial. I mean, I'm still friends with all those guys, so I learned a lot playing with them. I was a little mad when they cut me, but I definitely understand it now looking back at it. So
Yeah. So, my name's Owen Goin. I currently live in Cincinnati. I'm from southwestern Indiana. I've been playing paintball competitively since around 2010, maybe early 2011. Formerly played with GG semi-pro team last season. I played with Struggle and Killers prior to that. I currently play for the pro ICPL Louisville Asylum, and that's pretty much all there is to know about me paintball wise.
My name is Chris Fuchs, and I've been playing tournament paintball since 2016. I believe I'm ranked D2, and I should be playing with GG D2 this year.
So I guess like when it comes to divisional paintball, the kind of normal practice schedule, it's just kind of mostly Sundays, just kind of getting out there on Sundays, getting some spins in, doing some drilling and stuff. Usually kind of, kept to just the traditional Sunday paintball. But when you're playing at like a higher rank, like D2 or semi-pro, like what does like kind of the practice schedule look like for you throughout the year?
yeah, for sure, it's a great question. So whenever I was like last year, I played a lot of paintball. And playing a lot of paintball doesn't necessarily mean playing tournaments or going to practice on Sundays. Like throughout the week to keep my skill sharp because I knew I was playing at a high level in semi-pro and I knew the teams that we were going against and I have a lot of friends in semi-pro that I wanted to beat because they're my friends. So I wanted to be the best that I could be. And I would practice during the week. I'm super blessed because the field that I played for when I first started playing out of in Pinnacle Woods in Chardon, I only lived 30 minutes away from. So in the career that I have, being a firefighter, it allows me to have 48 hours off. So during the week, when no one would be there and the owner was there, I'd be like, hey, I'm off today. Would you mind if I come out and just drill? And usually that would end up in me shooting at cones or like practicing snap drills or running and shooting at the same time. Sometimes there would be some people that would come out with me and allow me to do one-on-ones with them and stuff like that, which was really good to get involved in too. But the season it was very very in depth as far as practicing because when you at a high level, those guys are practicing just as much as you are. So I knew I had to kind of step up the practice game a little bit, and I knew I had to put extra work in um, to be able to compete at that high level.
So it really kind of just depends on what kind of practice schedule your team has. I know personally I try to be out there at least every weekend on Sunday. But leading up to the events, like the 3 weekends leading up to the events, I'll be out there Saturday and Sunday, and the weekend prior I'll be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. Since there's no longer two layout weekends, there's only one. I try to get as much time in on the layout as I can.
I mean, it kind of like Owen said, it depends what your team does. And I've changed over the years. When I was coming up through the ranks and I was trying to get, I was like quickly trying to get better. I was playing Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, until I started traveling to play better people, and then I was driving 3 to 4 hours every weekend out to Louisville to go practice with Struggle. But I mean, when it comes to D2 and stuff, yeah, like Owen said, during the season, I at least try to play once a weekend, if not both days, leading up to a tournament. I don't do Fridays. I don't take that's too much time off for me. But Saturday, Sunday, and then at the event would do
It
Thursdays.
like, I'm sorry to like circle back, but like
Yeah.
it also just really depends on like how much time and effort you want to put into it. I know whenever I was coming up first playing D3 back in 2016, 2015, whatever it was, I was playing literally every weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, and that was on my own accord. I was trying to get on the local semi-pro team, and it worked, but I played 50 weekends out of a year for 3 years. And I mean, it just kind of depends on
Yeah.
what kind of dedication you want to put into it to get better. But definitely, the 10,000 hours makes perfection. That's definitely something that can be, I think what I'm trying to say, it would definitely be, yeah, attributed to something like this. Putting in the time definitely makes you better, so on and
Yeah.
so forth. It's not really something you can just kind of, get points and like jump up through the ranks.
Yeah, I always tell people paintball's like golf. The more time you put into it, the better you're gonna get, and the more time you take away from it, the worse you're gonna get. It's directly correlated to the amount of time you spend on the field, the better you're gonna be for sure.
Right, and like that's why I want like your guys' perspective on this because it's like so many of these just like Sunday only like kids are just like, yeah, man, like can I play D3? And it's like, brother, like,
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with like only
Mhm.
playing Sundays
Yeah,
and
yeah.
playing, D3 or D4, but like I feel like getting any more competitive past that, or really trying to like push the boundaries past that, or to be like a top tier Division 3 player, you got to play more often than just Sundays.
yeah. So to kind of build on that question as well. Again, I know for a lot of divisional teams, it's leading up to like a regional divisional event. It's just kind of like everyone's there on Sunday, maybe Saturday and Sunday, just kind of the weekend before. But playing at a higher level, I guess the most recent team you played with was Preferred Mob. What was kind of what did like the week or weeks leading up to an NXL event kind of look like for you guys?
Last year is a little different for me only because I had to fly to Boston to practice. So I would obviously practice with, Preferred Mob in Boston the week before, but the weeks leading up to that week before, because last year NXL enacted, they would drop their layouts a week before, whereas like the year before last year, it was 2 weeks before. So it actually kind of worked out for me a little bit better because it made traveling less and more cost efficient for me. But because I didn't regularly play with those guys, because all those guys are kind of from that area near Boston, I would I would amp up my practice schedule during the week to practice on like individual skills that I could work on personally. Um, just to have my playing skills be good. But that's not to say that you know being a team and being able to mesh together. So like when I played with the OBR guys, we all live in this area, so it was super easy to practice with each other. Um, and super easy to like learn their like niches and what they liked and what they didn't like and like how they communicated. Whereas like when I went to the Boston team, it was kind of difficult because I didn't like I knew the people, but like I hadn't played with them as long as I've been playing with like the OBR guys per se, or even the All American guys, like to where you play with them long enough to where you like know what move they want to make or know how to communicate with them. So I know I'm kind of getting off topic here. Um, but the time commitment leading up to that event, it was anytime I basically had off from work, I would be at the paintball field and I would just be doing those individual drills, whether it's like shooting at cones or um, snap drills or anything like that.
I mean, in the higher like every answer we give you is
D2
it's
or
always gonna
above.
be preceded by us saying like it also us saying like it depends what your goals are for your team, right? If you want to be like Owen had said before, like if you want to be a top tier team in your division or you want to be a competitive, some people want to go play with their friends, which is more than okay. Like balling with your boys and seeing how far you can get in a tournament. Totally okay. Some guys have the talent to be able to do that at D2 and semi-pro. You know, there's some teams that they kind of just that's what they do. They're
paintball
playing with
fit.
their friends, right? But if you want to
I
be
said
like a
IE paintball fit. I'm sorry.
huh?
My mic lagged. I thought you stopped talking. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
No,
to
paintball fit
speak
is
in.
like the opposite of that. But I mean, as far as like time commitment goes, if you want to be a good team, I mean, there's more to it than just like showing up on Sunday playing points. I mean, this past year with GG, we had the benefit of like NYX coming out and practicing us, and we learned a lot of different drills from them. But I mean, you're not spending your time just like we're gonna go play 10 points. Like it's Saturday, you're running one-on-ones into island drills, 2v1 down each side, into off the break shooting. Like the first day generally isn't even, you're not playing points, which I think is where there's like a lot of disconnect between casual teams and high performing teams, is that uh, casual teams kind of seem like they just want to go play points, and then they think that that's enough prep, and then they're going to the tournament. Whereas other teams are trying to figure out, okay, if you're in this kind of situation where there's two guys on the D side and one guy on the snake side, how do we react to that? Okay, now what about two guys on the snake side and one guy on the D? Like, there's a lot more prep that goes into it, and a lot more situationals that go into it. And then, as far as time goes, you're doing that all day. Saturday morning, I mean, we're out at the field. We were going at what, 8
You'd have to
a.m.
be there at like 7:30, be ready to play by 8, and then be on the field shooting 8:30 or 9 o'clock or something like that. Then you'd be there until
Yeah, and then
4, 5, 6 o'clock, depending on how late the sun was up. I mean, if it was up until 7 or 8 o'clock, those dudes were
right.
out there until 7 or 8. I mean, we wouldn't be out there until then, unfortunately. But majority of the time, NYX was out there until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. They'd practice for almost 10, 12
Mm-hmm.
hours a day, if weather permit.
And then even after that, they're going home and they're breaking down what happened on that field layout. Like you're having a meeting after you play all day to talk about all the different stuff that you saw and what, here's a crazy cut right here and there's a blind shot over here. Like you're breaking down all this stuff so everybody on the team has all the information.
But yeah, so like on the time aspect, uh, okay, perfect example. So last season for the first event in Florida, we went to practice NRG Elite in Virginia. So with that happening, we had to fly out. This is the weekend before the event, so we had to fly out either Wednesday night or Thursday evening. We would practice. We'd be in Virginia Friday through Sunday. Some of the guys stayed until Monday. So you have to tack on flying to get there. You also have to tack on hotels and stuff like that, eating and all that, gas if you drove, because Wedgie and I drove 16 hours to Virginia from Ohio for some reason. Um, but it does take up a lot of time. I mean, you have to getting into the higher divisions. You want to make sure that your job will allow for you to take time off. I mean, you were looking at taking any time anywhere between 15 to 30 days off depending on how much paintball you play. Like if you're playing ICPLs and NXLs and a regional event series, if you're able to fit all three in, uh you're going to be taking off upwards of 35 days, and a lot of places won't account for that. A lot of people's personal lives won't account for that. That's something you really have to take into consideration before trying to make that big of a jump. Not saying that you shouldn't, but that is definitely something you should think of, before trying to go all in, saying I'm going to make this huge jump playing pro paintball to make my living like in a life. It's feasible, but it's not. It's not there for everybody. It's there for the top tier and the people that really want to put all the work in. But it looks like only 1% of the people that play paintball want to put the work in to make that kind of money, and they definitely show. And they're in the pro leagues and they're making that kind of money. I know there are some semi-pro players that get paid, uh, but it's few and far between.
Yeah, so that actually rolls into my next question kind of perfectly. So as much as you're comfortable or you feel that you're able to say, but what kind of financial responsibilities do you have in the higher divisions? I know a lot of people assume that once you kind of reach past D3, D2 semi-pro, all that, the sponsorships kind of stop being more of like a 10% discount and more of like an actual, like, putting gear in people's hands and stuff. As much as you're comfortable saying.
So I'll keep kind of like the deal that I had with Preferred Mob just on the DL, because I don't know if they want that information out, but
Well, whatever you're comfortable sharing, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So for All American, so for the 10-man stuff, I'll just start there with the All Americans. Everything is compensated. Unless you have to fly somewhere, you pay for your flight, but everything under the sun after that, paintball related, from your hotel, the rental, like all that is covered. So that is super nice because that allows me to save money for things I want to do outside of paintball and still be competitive. For the semi-pro team I was on, we had a deal with the owner where a lot of things were covered, but you would still pay a little bit here and there, but nothing. It was nothing to lose sleep over. His name is Dean Carlton. He was very, very gracious to the guys and the team, and he did a lot. He does a lot for that team, and that's why I was so thankful that he allowed me to even have the opportunity to play with them. Now, when you kind of get into like the lower divisional teams, like maybe the D5 or the D4, or maybe even some of the D3, like local events, so like MSXL, there's a local one in Pittsburgh called APPA, and stuff like that. As you kind of get into those, I mean, depending on who you have running the team, because a lot of stuff that usually gets covered in paintball is usually by the owner of the team if he has a lot of money or anything like that. But whenever I played like a local event like MSXL, I would usually pay out of pocket. But that's the thing with playing those local events is I don't mind paying to play those because I'm usually playing with all my friends.
Right.
Like, not saying I'm not playing with my friends on All Americans or playing with my friends on Preferred Mob, but like these are like people that are local to me that I see outside of paintball, and I get to hang out with outside of paintball a lot, and it's just like it's a different kind of euphoria when you get to play with people that you see all the time, as compared to hanging with the guys that you just play events with. If you're hanging out outside of paintball, it makes it a lot easier to be like, hey, I can justify me paying $200 to play this event because I just want to play with my friends. So everything is super dependent in paintball. It's not like a one-way road, kind of like, oh, if you're Division 5, you're paying $1,000, or when you get to Division 4, you'll pay $900. Everything is so super dependent on like the team that you have and what certain people on the team are willing to cover and stuff like that.
Well, a gentleman doesn't kiss and tell, but yeah. Well,
I'll tell everything. I
I'll
don't
get
care.
into it a little bit. A lot of it really just depends on where you are with the owner of the team. I'm not saying that it's case by case situation, but like, say the entire team or whatever is advertising for that field owner, they are doing what they can to help the lower divisional teams and the newer players that are coming out to the field and trying to put a positive vibe, or not a vibe, positive outlook on that field, that they're bringing people in. That owner may be a little bit more inclined to help out that team, that person a little bit more. I know in the past, whenever I first started playing semi-pro in 2016, 2017, didn't get any of it paid for. Actually, we had to pay for everything. I think our field owner at the time paid for our entry, but we were having to pay for paint, which was $35 a case all the way up, shooting 100 to 170 cases of paint an event, plus lodging, plus getting to the event, plus paying for your food. You're looking at anywhere between $400 to $700 an event, depending on how far away it is, and I mean, what quality you're wanting to put into that quote unquote trip. Um, Nowadays you see the higher echelon of semi-pro and D2 players not having to pay. It just, like I said, really kind of depends on their skill level and what team. Edit this out, Tim. Have Chris go. Let me go. Let me think this over a little bit.
No,
Have
you're fine. You're fine.
this. No, Chris, you go, and then I'll get back into it.
Well, I will say, like Owen said, sometimes it's the team owner and how they want to approach the team, or sometimes it's the player and their relationship with who's running the team. Certain players get it's not unheard of for certain players to be paid for, and other players have to pay their way. Just kind of depends how good you are. Um, I mean, I'm more comfortable talking about it because I'm one of the guys that pays his way more often, and Owen's a better player than me, and I think that
Shut up,
he
Chris.
has a little more help than me. But I mean, like you said, I wouldn't. A lot of people approach paintball and they're like, "Oh, the prizes are," or like you don't make money off of tournaments, and like my should be covered and blah blah blah. And that's not really, it's not realistic from I would say 98% of the players that play. Like if you want to get to that point, then you need to grind your ass off to become a good player, so that when teams look at you, they're like, "We want this guy. We don't care what it takes," and then you might be able to get your entry covered or your paint covered. But the reality of the sport, even all the way up to, in my opinion, even in semi-pro, like they're not. This is a hobby. Like I look at it as like some guys are into motorcycles, some guys are into drift cars or racing, and they just dump money into it. And I don't know if you make money off of that stuff, but I don't think you do. And that's what paintball is to me. It's like I'm gonna dump money into it because it gives me joy and I have fun doing it, and I want to be the best that I can be at it. But I don't expect to make money off of it, even if I were to somehow get to a pro team. I just don't. That's not my expectation. I don't see it as like a way for me to make a living. As far as like help and things that have, you definitely get more help the higher up you go, and if you're winning tournaments, if you are a D4 team and you guys make the jump to D2, you shouldn't. And there's no reason you guys just signed up for D2. There's no reason for you to expect any kind of cut or break from anybody. You haven't proved yourselves. Now, if you're a team like Paintball Fit and you're winning every tournament in semi-pro, yeah, I mean that's a great look for Paintball Fit the field. So I wouldn't be surprised if everything was covered for them but they're performing, they're winning all the time. But if you aren't winning in your division, I don't really see why a team owner or like a field would really back you up fully financially, unless you're doing some crazy stuff at home that brings in revenue for your team for your field at home. Like if you're showing up and if your field has a drill night and you're going out there and you're running that drill night every Wednesday for free, or you're bringing in your company for a rec ball day, or there's a bunch of different stuff you can do for your field. I mean, even when I was in D4, I traded free entry to the field for me to clean the field after we were done playing. Like there was a trade there, but the field owners don't really get a benefit from you as a team unless you're like consistently winning to the point that teams want to practice you for a tournament, and you bring in 5, 6, 7 teams for a tournament practice where the field's going to sell 3 to 4 pallets of paint. Then it becomes beneficial for them. But other than that, it's really like, why do you think you deserve money just because you're playing in a higher division, unless you're like a winning team, unless you're a team that people want to go practice, or people want to go play at your field. Like I've never been to Paintball Fit. Paintball Fit crushed semi-pro last year. I would love to go play at that field because I'm sure that there's a bunch of ballers out there if they're consistently winning like that. I think that's my mindset on it.
It's funny that like because like Morgan actually brought up Paintball Fit a lot when I did this with him. Like, because I mean, man, like I'm excited to see those guys in pro this year. Just the hype around them, and just like it's this is gonna be cool.
They're they're a great example because like I don't know. I think I heard like they're practicing 5, 6 nights a week every week. Like that's an insane amount of dedication, but you could see they were dominating. Like nobody was touching them really in semi-pro. I mean, Blast Camp was getting close, but they won every tournament. It's hard to win a tournament. It's really hard to win every single tournament at semi-pro. Like that's
I mean,
such a
yeah,
hard
winning
thing
a
to
tournament
do.
in general in the XL is like
So
super
yeah,
hard. There's going to be a small percentage of teams that even win, like no matter what division it is, D4, D5, D3. I mean, like it doesn't happen very often. It's
hmm
different in regional, but like you don't win a national event very often. So like to see a team like PB Fit consistently win the semi-pro division, like Chris said, it shows the dedication that they want to be there.
For sure. Owen, did you have anything else that you wanted to tack on there? Or if not, it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So like talking about the pricing thing, man, it
Yeah.
really all just kind of depends on your situation. Like with, like Chris said, your sponsors, how well you're doing in that division, how many people you're bringing in as a team. I mean, to to the other side of that sword that Chris said, even if you are maybe consistently placing fourth, third, second, top 10 in that division, and you're still bringing teams in that want to scrimmage you, I mean that's still a little bit of revenue. That's still doing something for the fields. I mean, you may get a little bit of kickback off of that. But like I was saying, it's not unheard of for people to be paid for to play, but it's few and far between. But it's definitely there. So I can't really say anything on me, dude. I'm getting so sidetracked. I don't no, no, Tim, I don't have anything else to tack on to the end of that. I'm sorry, dude.
No,
I'm
it's
so
okay.
tired.
I would
It's
tack
okay.
on.
I didn't expect y'all to like just sit here and be like, so
Maybe-
last tournament I paid like
Yeah. I mean, we're still on the team, or I'm still on GG, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like air out. I mean, Dustin's been great to our team. I will say that, and I'm lucky to be playing at the level I am with the help that I'm getting. And I would say, Owen,
I
disagree or agree with me. I would say it's more common to. Okay, well, I would say it's more common for individuals to get deals than it is for an entire team to get a deal. I would say I hear it like a you're not paying for anything kind of deal. I would say that it happens more for individuals
But
than
only
it
for
does for
established
entire
teams. Like
teams.
I don't see teams that are on the come up. But just for example, we'll use GG Semi Pro team as last year. I didn't see the come up of that team and then them approach one person and be like, "Hey, we're gonna pay for everything just for you. Everyone else is paying for everything, but we're gonna pay for you."
Mm,
It's more of teams that have been around for 3, 4, 5 seasons that are just trying to get that little bit of extra oomph to get to that next push to be a top competitor in their division.
just like
Uh,
hired guns.
yeah, essentially, yeah.
mm.
That's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
It's not a whole squad of people. It may be 2, 3, 4 players from another team that got picked up off of a semi-pro team down to D2, but it's not ever an entire team unless they're just like a factory team, or unless they have outside sponsorship from like a personal business or something like that. But it's not going to be coming from inside the community. I don't think.
So based on how I understand it, D4 is kind of designed to house the majority or like 90% of regional divisional players. Like, do you think like the design of that, like, do you agree with it, or do you think that they maybe need to break it up a little bit more?
Yeah, so in my personal opinion, I think Division 4 is the most competitive division, like aside from pro and maybe semi-pro, but like I think it's the most competitive division because if you ever look at like any NXL or any local tournament, Division 4 is always booked full to the brim with an enormous amount of teams. So what I think it comes down to is I think a lot of that has to do with guys that maybe have played at a high level before, haven't played a couple years, their points went down, they're D4 now, and they want to come in and they just want to ride it out in D4 and then win a tournament with the skills that they've learned in the past from playing higher divisions. That's one scenario. Other scenarios are like other teams like coming up. Maybe they were just Division 5 and they swept Division 5 and now they all got ranked up to D4. So I think it's a healthy mixture of competition, and I think Division 4 really will allow certain teams to be like, do we really want to, do we really want to fast track to Division 3? Or do we want to kind of kick it down here in D4, learn some more? Because we're going to learn a lot because we're playing so much paintball. We're just with the sheer amount of teams. Like, look at MSXL. Like, Division 3 had like 8 teams in it. And then you got Division 4 that has like 25, 30 teams. You're definitely going to be getting more experience playing the Division 4 than the Division 3. You might be playing better players, per se, at the Division 3 level, but you're not getting. I would rather play more paintball and play people that are at my level if I'm Division 4 than to play better people and less paintball in Division 3. I think it's better for people to learn. And so I do have to agree to an extent that Division 4 I think should be like where the majority of regional divisional players, kind of cut their teeth in the more competitive side of things. Now as they kind of rank up and they do good and they eventually rise up to that Division 3, then yeah, I think that they should take the step and obviously continue to, keep growing divisions as they deem fit. But I feel like that has to be on the consensus of the whole team. And I feel like everyone has to be on the same page because I feel like that causes a little trial and tribulations on some teams where like someone's like, oh, let's just go with the D3. We just destroyed D4. And some people are like, well, let's just keep learning down here in D4 because maybe this is just a one-off tournament that we just won. And maybe we can learn more from the next tournament because there'll be different teams there. You know what I mean?
I agree with that just solely because that is, I mean, other than D5 and D6 being the lower divisions, D4 is the easiest to get into. I mean, you literally see people of all shapes, sizes, and ages playing D4. I mean, Tom Kaprowski's dad, up until a few years ago, who was in his 70s, was playing Division 4 X Ball in the MSXL. So I mean, like I would agree with that. The D4 is the biggest house for players to be coming into paintball, or not be coming into paintball, but the biggest housing of paintball players in all the leagues and series. Words.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. D4 is kind of a catch-all, but I don't really think you need to divide it up anymore. I think that it operates pretty well right now. I mean, you're gonna have kids that can drop down from D3 or whatever, and maybe they go sandbag, but like you rank out of D4 pretty quick if you're winning consistently. I think the big problem that people run into is that they'll play like one D4 tournament, they'll get like 15th out of 22 teams, and they're like, all right, we're going to jump to D3. And it's like, what? No, you don't. The whole point of you having D4 is to develop yourselves as a team. I mean, if you can keep a team together from D5 all the way up into the upper divisions, I mean, you're going to be a really good team. Like Paintball Fit
Play
was together.
D3.
I think they
D3.
started in D4.
Yeah.
Did they start in D3? All right. Well, they've been playing together through the divisionals for like forever with a few adjustments here and there, but for the most part, their core's been the same. And you can see it when they play on the field. Like they know exactly how to play off of each other because they've been playing with each other for so long. So it's like, I don't know. A lot of people want to jump out of D4 because they have the stigma of like, I don't want to be a D4 player. But it's like the whole point of that is your goal should be to be a better player. It shouldn't be like to get a higher rank on your APPA because once you get in the upper divisions, you can tell me what your rank is, but I'm gonna watch I'm gonna watch how you play, and I'm gonna know what kind of player you are. I've seen D5 kids come and ball out, and I'm like, that kid's a fucking baller. Like we need to like talk to him. And I've seen kids that are ranked semi-pro, and it's like you play them, and it's like you should be down in D3. Dude. I don't like it's you can tell it doesn't matter what's on your APPA. So I mean, to answer your question, D4 is a catch-all, but I think that that's appropriate. If you're playing in D4, you shouldn't jump out of D4 until you rank out of it naturally. You should just keep playing that and have fun and learn how to play the game. The only argument I have is that Morgan said D4 is the most competitive. I don't think it's the most competitive skill wise. I think it is the biggest grind though, because you have to beat more teams to get to the finals. Because you have to get like World Cup, there was like 100 fucking D4 teams. You had to play like 12 matches to get to the finals or whatever it was. And then D2 or semi-pro, you have what you play like what 6 matches to get to the finals, something like that. It's way less matches.
Yeah, you play 4 matches to get to the finals. You play 2 on Friday, 2 Saturday.
No. To get to,
like
I'm talking about to get to
okay.
like
first
play, first, second,
6, 7, 8.
Yeah, but like in D4, dude, you gotta win. You have to take
100
teams down to 2. Like you'd have to. That's so many. Yeah, that's so many fucking points. That's so many matches. Like it's definitely the biggest grind to win. And in that respect, I would say it's probably harder to operate as a D4 team and win, just because you have to be able to perform through so many fucking matches. Like that sounds miserable to me. I don't even know if I'd want to play paintball by the end of it. It's like, I'm ready to go home, bro. We played 12 fucking matches.
So, what are some things that you think that D4 players should expect, or things that they should prepare for before they take that next step up into D3?
Yeah, great question. Well, I it would be kind of sort of hypocritical for me to answer this question because I went kind of right to D3. I kind of skipped over D4. I played maybe like one event or maybe two events in D4 and then just went to D3 with OBR. But I think the biggest thing from division to division, and this is even with life too, but the biggest thing that changes from division to division as you get more progressive, as you get more, skilled, is communication. And I've seen it because I played Division 3 in NXL and then I've played semi-pro, and they are two completely different beasts because you can sit in semi-pro a whole match and just talk to your team, and a point will go 10 minutes. And in D3, it's a lot of people just kind of rummaging down, trying to just, beat the shit out of each other and kind of just win by as many points as I can. And this will kind of answer your question from D4 to D3. Your game plans kind of change, and your communication based on your game plans is humongous. So, like, let's just say, Division 4, you don't really have, you have a little less guidance, and like, some teams are good at it, but some teams are just like, hey, we're up by 2. There's 10 minutes left on the clock. Like, let's just keep going at them the same game plan. Whereas, like, as you might kind of progress in your divisions, you're up by 2. There's 10 minutes left. Like, hey, we're gonna kind of take a defensive posture. Morgan, you're gonna shoot this way. Tim, you're gonna shoot this way. If we lose the guy over here, then you have to pick up this over here. Just stuff like that, and then like being able to communicate that on the field to each other, I feel is what the biggest difference is from Division 4 to Division 3. And the only reason I can say that is because the communication from Division 3 to semi-pro was huge. People aren't afraid to just sit for 3 minutes straight just protecting, a guy moving down the Dorito side or just protecting a guy from getting into the snake. Like semi-pro, they're not afraid of that. I guess maybe some Division 3 teams will do that too, but I haven't really seen it that often because people are still like super like headstrong and like let's just go just beat the hell out of these guys. Whereas like if you looked at like Paintball Fit is awesome at it. They would just sit on a lane. And like if some guy was off the lane, the other teammate would know that because the other guy would tell him, and then that guy would pick up the lane. So that other person on the other side couldn't make it through, even though that guy stopped shooting it. It's stuff like that.
I would start out by saying if you're going to make the jump from D4 to D3, you should only do so if your team ranks out naturally by winning. So, or if you just rank out naturally, that's the only time you should make that jump. Nobody cares that if you're a D4 team or a D3 team, if you play on a D4 team or D3 team, doesn't say anything to, at least to me. That doesn't say anything to me. I don't care if you play on a D4 line or a D3 line. I'm going to watch you play. I'm going to watch how you communicate, and I'm going to make my judgments from there. So if you're going to make the jump from D4 to D3, you should really only do so if you're winning, or at least you're competing and you're ready for the next step or whatever. And then once you get to D3, I mean, it's not Sunday practice and then you go ball. If you want to be competitive, again, this is all predicated on like you want to be a competitive D3 line. If you want to go around and have fun with your friends, more power to you. Get ready on Sunday and go have fun. But if you're trying to be competitive and win the tournament, I mean, it's you gotta. I would say For a D3 line, for a reasonable expectation would be at least 2 weekends a month you should practice together, if not more. When I played on D3 struggle, the requirement was twice a month. When we went out there, it was everybody on the team had to pay for 2 cases of paint, and we put it into a pile for team paint, which was great because we had like 100 guys. So it was just like 200 boxes of paint. We're sitting there ready. Um, so yeah, I would say expect to practice again if you want to be competitive twice a month, and I would say everybody on the team has to buy 2 cases. You put it in a pile for team paint, and you go from there. That I would say that's probably like pretty baseline to be competitive.
And so yeah, like kind of like what Chris was saying, like things to just be prepared for. You're gonna spend more money. I mean, that's all it is. Like you shoot way more paint in D3 as opposed to D4. There's a little bit more connectivity between players. Um, Something else, a team going from D4 to D3, I would not expect to win your first tournament. Maybe not even one in your first season or come in top 4. Speaking from experience, a lot of D3 teams will have a D2 or semi-pro player on their team as a hired gun to play for them. Um, and when they do, majority of the time, that person is very experienced, and they don't really they don't cut any corners. Uh, Also, like Chris said, I would expect to be practicing at least 2 times a month. Um, if not every Sunday, or not every Sunday, if not Sundays, at least one of those weekends being a 2-day practice, being Saturday and Sunday, probably the weekend prior to the event. Um, you are also, like I said, money. Pooling paint is going to be a big thing. It's not any more of the me and my buddy or all of us are just going to come out here and buy a case, and maybe Johnny has enough to get 2 cases this time, and he shoots all that, but we only have enough to get 1 case. It's paint pooling is a big thing. Even if you are a front player and you're only shooting like 2, 3, 4 pods a match, but or point, and your guy behind you shooting 8, 9, 10, he has to be able to have that to like put fire down for you to go for it. I know that sounds so basic and so dumb, but like you paying for that paint for your back player to shoot that for you to move down the field helps you in the long run. So you're still I don't know what I'm trying to say with that, but you're going to spend more money. That's really the big thing from D4 to D3.
If you could go back to the beginning, start back off with like 0 APPA points fresh, what kind of path would you kind of take now that you have kind of all the knowledge and experience that you have now?
Well, I don't mind the path that I've taken so far. So I mean, not to hate on myself on that one, but if I could go back, what I would do is I would try to. And it's so hard nowadays to find like-minded individuals that have the same drive as you and to have the same willpower. I would I wish I could have got in earlier with some of the Ohio like power guys. That's like the old OBR guys. Um, and I wish we could have. I wish I that was before I started playing competitive paintball, so I wouldn't even known them. But what I would do is I'd take a team of guys that just have the same mindset as me and the same drive, and just go through the divisions with them. And that's a little difficult when you don't have certain sponsors or certain things covered as far as financials go, because as you kind of get older, things change in life. People have kids, people get married, people may lose a job or something like that. So it makes playing paintball become something that's a little bit on the back burner. One thing that I think would be cool, and I don't know if it would even have been possible, but kind of do it like, Paintball Fit does at their field. Run tournaments and stuff like that. Maybe charge a little bit extra for the paint or something, or for the entry. I don't know how the logistics work on it, but like maybe use that and like run these small little tournaments that they have, like mech tournaments, or something like a little airball tournament or a little hyperball tournament, where all the local teams will come out, and then like the team like the OBR guys or whoever would be on the team with me would ref it, and then we would gather the profits, whether it be $100 or something like that, throughout the year, do a couple of those events, and then just have it pay for like the next NXL event, or like pay for the hotel or pay for the paint, something like that, to where it made it easier for us to justify going to Chicago or going to Philadelphia or going to Vegas or going to Florida to play NXL. And then from there, we would grow that community locally, and that it would allow us to kind of progress as a team and progress divisionally, where we could go through D4, D3, D2, all the way to semi-pro, and stuff like that. A lot of these teams that have that opportunity to do that, like Paintball Fit, it's such a blessing for them, because it's like it makes it so much easier and so much less taxing. I don't know the deal that those Paintball Fit guys get, but I know that all those guys are super dedicated, and all those guys are super dedicated to that field too. So I'm sure the owner of the team helps out with some stuff for those guys too, and it just makes it easier, because those guys, like I just got done saying, all are like-minded individuals, and they just want to see that paintball field succeed, and they want to see that paintball team succeed. So they all put in 1,000% effort all the time, and it just makes everything just flow smooth for them. So if I could go back, that's kind of what I would do, is kind of mimic exactly what Paintball Fit did. Is they kind of came up through the divisions. They had a short stint in pro at one point with AC Dallas, under the name of AC Dallas. They kind of didn't do great. Came back in semi-pro, learned a lot, became Paintball Fit, and now they're going back into pro. So that's their schematic, or whatever they did to succeed as a team, is kind of what I would implement into my team if I could go back down to 0 APPA points and kind of come up from the beginning.
Shout out Paintball Fit.
Okay.
Moving to Mexico,
shit.
I'm playing
Okay.
D5s. No, so, man,
that's a hard answer.
more
so- Yeah.
It's like, do I just on D5 kid? Because like I know, like if I were to go play D5, I would just run
yeah,
house.
like more so what my advice to another kid, and I know like my advice to another person, kind of like what Chris already said, is play as low as you can for as long as you can. It is more beneficial to play D4 and D5, or I mean D4 and D3 for as long as you can, and learn the basics and learn how to be a consistent top player, and then move on to D2 whenever you're being a super consistent D3 player. And I'm not saying that young kids shouldn't do this. Like, for example, Colton Dole has been playing paintball since he was 10 years old, tournament paintball since he was 10 years old. He's now playing for New York Wrecking Crew, and he's 18, 19. I'm not trying to misspeak, but I think he's younger than 20. So with that being said, it's not an age thing. It's an experience thing fully. Like, there's no reason to rush from D4 to D3 to D2, especially if you haven't been around for more than a year. Like, you are just going to go and get your pushed in. I'm not saying that that's not going to drive you to become a better player, but it's not worth the investment. The return isn't going to be there. So, like I said, I would play D4 as long as I could, learn the basics from D4, learn how to win tournaments, and then play D3, learn how to connect with my team a little bit better, learn how to like actually put a field together, or not put a field together physically, but like figuratively, like in my head, how to break down the field, how to win an actual point and then a match. Uh, and then I would take my sweet time in that until I could play D2, and I would play D3 and D2 at the same time as much as I could. Like I said, I played semi-pro and D3 for as long as I was permitted to. I'm no longer allowed to because I ranked out of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the same angle that Owen did. Like my advice always is to play tournaments as low as you can and practice as high as you can. You get better during practice. You do not get better during tournaments. Tournament is a place to test yourself, and practice is the place to make yourself better. So if you're a D5 kid and you've just been playing 2 tournaments and you decide to go play semi-pro because you can sign up, you're not magically going to become a better player. Um, and it doesn't matter who you can tell whoever you want to like yeah, or you can tell whoever like whatever rank that you want to say like, oh, I played semi-pro, so you should pay for me in D2. They're gonna invite you out to practice, they're gonna watch you play, and they're gonna know exactly what happened. So if it's for a clout thing or if you want people to respect you, the best way to do that is to put the time in at your appropriate level. I respect kids that win all the way through D5 and then they go play D4 and then they win all the way through D4 and then they go play D3 and then they win all the way through D3. I respect that a hell of a lot more than a team plays D5, they win one tournament, they decide to jump to D3, they lose the first 2 tournaments and then the team falls apart. Um, Nobody remembers those teams after that. And that's what you see happen a lot. A lot of teams will do this big jump out of nowhere for no apparent reason, and then they lose, they get the shit pushed in, and then they fall, the team falls apart. And that's the opposite of beneficial for you. You would benefit more from keeping your D5 team together all the way through all the ranks as long as everybody has the same motivations and goals. You're better off doing that than to make this huge jump and then you get destroyed and nobody wants to play
I
paintball
will
for you.
say, like, on the contrary, there are some kids that are just freaks of nature that just have the talent for the sport. Those
I'm not disagreeing with you that you can have new kids come in, but generally, more often than not, it's a highly athletic kid who's some kind of like high performer in another sport, like a track star or something, and they generally will play snake because that's the easiest thing to be good at out the gate. You
crawl,
run in there, you dive. As long as you're not afraid to crawl down the field,
but
you're gonna
more
be pretty decent. But have you ever heard of like a new player becoming a 3 on a
no, but
semi
that's
pro
not what I
line?
was getting at. Like, I'm saying, I'm not even saying
Okay.
making the jump to play pro or play semi-pro or D2, but like, say you're a young 19, 18, 17-year-old kid and you're semi-athletic, you play sports or whatever. You're not someone who's going to tire out easy. And you play a tournament and you show out and you show that you have the capability to play D3 or maybe possibly even be on a practice squad for a D2 team. I'm only speaking like as if a pro coach were to approach this child or person. I shouldn't say child, but to approach this person, yeah, to approach this
Child.
person or whatever, and say, hey, I see you have the ability to make this work if you put a little bit of effort into it, which I'd be willing to help give or help with. Words, if you would put a little bit of effort into your craft, which I'd be willing to help you with, then like you're able to play at a higher level. I mean, that would be like the only thing, but I still think while your rank is low, I still think you should play lower divisions. I mean, to each their own and their own decisions and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I shot myself in the foot. I went from D3 to semi-pro in less than a year, less than 6 months. I played a D3 MSXL. I performed so well that the D2 team that was reffing us at the time picked me up, and then the next event after that, I played semi-pro, and that put my rank in the grave at high D1 since I've been 19. And so I mean that's almost 9 years of me not being
Yeah.
able to play anything but really D2 or semi-pro. I couldn't really play D4 or D3 with multiple of my friends because all my friends are ranked D2, and you can only have one semi-pro or one D2 player on a D3 roster.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings up another good point is that the higher up you go, the quicker you can learn that, or not the quicker you can learn, but the higher up you go, the quicker the game can become not fun and it becomes a job for you to go do. And that's when you start to lose like the passion for it. Unless you're like somebody that like your passion is just winning and that's all you want to do. For me, the higher up I got, the more time and energy I had to put into it. But then the angrier I would get when certain pieces didn't go the way that they were supposed to, or like people weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And then like, I can get to the point at a tournament. It's like I'm not even having fun. I'm paying all this money. Um, so I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that point, but I did notice like the higher up I went, the less
It
fun I
is
was having,
definitely
unless
more
I was winning.
responsibility the higher division you play. I mean, because you're putting so much more on the line. And I mean, it's not just your money that's being put on the line. It's the other 7 to 8 guys that are on your roster that are also putting the time in to be there and taking time off of work and, you know, taking whatever kind of cut they are in their personal life to be
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like, there's less on the line to go. Like, if I were to go to an MSXL in Nashville, I could go. I could go and around in D3 and have a good time and not be worried about it because everybody just drove there, and it's not the same cost as playing like an NXL.
And I mean, everyone
You know?
does have their different motivations to play, you know, Division 3. Some teams are trying to compete in that division to earn a name and earn respect in that division. And then, like Chris said, there's some people that are just kind of trying to show up and play beer league there. And, you know, sometimes those are the teams that win, and sometimes it's the teams that are dedicated that win. It just kind of depends, because a lot of the time that beer league team is a bunch of sandbagging dudes that are just coming there to hang out with their buddies and play paintball.
So if you made it this far in the video, made it all the way to the end, huge thank you. Really appreciate it. I know this is a little bit longer than what I normally upload, but yeah, I really appreciate Morgan, Owen, and Chris for taking the time to chat with me. These guys have a ton of insight, and I was really glad that I was able to kind of dig into some of that. Go ahead and comment down below whether you thought Chris or Owen had better insight. It's very important to them that they know who is better. So yeah, I'll also link their social media in the description down below. Definitely give them a follow. These guys are some of the best players that I know, and yeah, they post a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.